Welcome, my loves, to another episode of the Savvy Stylist Podcast. I am your host, Amy Walker, and we are launching today the Savvy Stylist Unleashed series that I'm so freaking excited for. This is going to be bringing you guys some conversations that I can guarantee you have not even considered inside of your business that really, when you hear these conversations and these different perspectives come to life for you, it is going to change the way you do life and business. And as always, our goal is to avoid the burnout piece. And as entrepreneurs and creatives who pour our heart and souls into the work we do and the clients we serve, this is something that is happening faster and faster than ever before. So the Unleash series just had to come to life. We needed to start having these conversations, and I am so excited that you are here with us today. And for our very first episode in this series, I'm so excited and so honored to have the one and only Gigi, Glow Flow with Gigi, with us today. Gigi is a registered nurse who has been cycle syncing for 4 years and helps high achieving women align their cycles and nervous systems so that they can lead, heal, and flow with ease. Gigi is a mom of 2 who homeschools. Oh my gosh, Gigi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Amy, for having me here. I'm excited. I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, me too. I was saying earlier, I was listening to an episode that you did on another podcast, and just the way that you were talking about cycles and cycle syncing and all the things, it got like my mind just started going. And I reached out to you right away. It was like, hey, we got to do this because this is a conversation we need to have as female entrepreneurs in the beauty industry. So I'm so excited. Gigi, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So you did such a great job introducing me. I am a registered nurse by trade. I have my bachelor's in nursing. I have many other certifications in terms of nutrition, nervous system regulations, etc. I'm a mom of 2. We homeschool, and my goal is to really just live a soft life, obviously while still building my business and tending to my children and my marriage. So I love being on the water. I just love relaxing, right?
Ah,
And yeah, and I'm so grateful to be here, to be able to share my message, because I really believe that this is my medicine to bring awareness to other women, to, other womb holders, of the magic and the importance that our womb space holds, and the wisdom, bring us back home to the wisdom that we are cyclical beings. We're not meant to go, be on all the time. That is a myth. That is a myth. Oh, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, but
Yeah.
we really got ourselves into this like hustle culture where
Mm,
all of that has I would say we're in like a very male dominated masculine energy kind of, especially in the beauty industry, where it's like you got to work more. If you want to make more money, you got to work more. You got to take more clients. You got to put yourself literally at the bottom and just like give everything that you have. So I think that it's like your mission and your message is so important for women across
thank
the world, honestly.
Absolutely. No matter what the field is that you do, like, honoring our natural cyclical beings and seasons, and all of that is important for us to avoid burnout.
Yeah. Yeah, which is like the biggest topic of conversation, but that is also the biggest unspoken. Like it's kind of this taboo thing where we seem to go from I'm loving everything, this is amazing, I love the work I do. Holy shit, I'm so burnt out, I cannot even function anymore. Straight to like I must quit and do something different. I must give it all up. There is no other option. On to the next thing. And that's what I'm really trying to help women in this industry have more awareness around that it doesn't have to be so like extreme, like up and down and moving on to the next. So you said that you are a registered nurse, but you don't work as a registered nurse anymore, do you? Or you do?
So I work privately. I have a couple of private clients that I still help with nursing activities with in the community, but my big mission is my mentorship and my coaching business.
Yeah. So tell us about that. How did you get into doing this work? What is the work? Your mentorship, your business, your vision. What is it specifically that you help women do?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. So, I help women to reconnect with their menstrual cycle, with their divineness or feminine energy, that because of the society that we live in right now, we have become so disconnected from it. From the time that we're small, from the time that we're like, what, 3 years old, we are conditioned. We got to wake up, we got to go to preschool, we got to go to this place from 9 to 5. Then we have this structure, then we have to be, when we get into our teenage years and we are starting our menstruation, we are have to go to the gym, you have to go put on some tampons, put this on. Like, you're weak if you show any weakness, like pain is normal, this is just life. Oh, yuck, your period is gross. So we have been conditioned, and a lot of us too, like when we even start our menstrual cycle, like the experience that we come into it with is so negative. And I was actually reading a study that said that like the way that we are introduced to our periods in our early years is how we maintain that relationship throughout our life. So even at 30, you're still carrying that trauma of having to hide, or like in my case, like it was very embarrassing, my first experience, right? So I carried that on for years and years. So my mission is to enable other women to realize like this is not something for us to be ashamed of. This actually holds power, because once we start seeing our menstrual cycle as the sacredness that it is, we start aligning our life with it, we realize that life becomes a lot more easier. We're no longer pushing when our bodies are like, slow down, and we're no longer hiding when our bodies are like, show out, right? Because that's literally a thing. So through my programs, through my coaching, through my mentorship, my goal is to help women to connect to that already sacredness that is inside of us. This isn't something that I'm helping you to go find. This is something that's already within you. It's just a remembering and coming back home to that. So that is what I do.
I love this because you're so right. And when I think about my own experience as a young girl getting my period from the very beginning, and I don't think it was intentional from my mom, because that was how it was for her. And that cycle, just continued where it was like very unknown. And I knew what was gonna come, but I really didn't know what to expect. And then it is very quickly this like, ew, that's gross, the shame and the hiding, and we do carry that forward. And then as adults who are so disconnected 30 years in from our
Mm,
cycles and are running ourselves ragged, half of us don't even have normal cycles anymore. You couldn't, I think for a lot of women, they have no idea when it's coming or what is happening or what's next. And so I think that point of like, and as a mom of girls, I'm very aware of what that will look like for my young girls, knowing that that will live with them forever. I love
absolutely.
this. I love this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I so I find it interesting that you said that too, because you asked how I got into this work. So I was helping a friend of mine who is a business entrepreneur, and I was noticing that she was really like burning herself out, running herself ragged. I had already been cycle syncing for about 3.5 years at this point. And I just, as a friend, I was like, you know what? Like, I could tell that you're very frustrated, and I could tell your patterns because we were on the phone every day. So I was able to start noticing her patterns. And I'm like, do you track your cycle? Like, you should start journaling how you're feeling during these times. And then she started doing that. And then I started incorporating, well, this is what, would work best during these times so that you don't feel like that. And fast forward to 6 months later, we were like having a lunch or whatever. Us and her mom was there as well. And she told me, she's like, you know what, Gigi? Ever since I started like resting during my menstrual phase and following XYZ, I notice I feel so much better. Mom, why didn't you tell me this stuff? And her mom was like, I didn't know, it's like these generational stuff. So when I like through helping her, I noticed I was like, oh my gosh, like this is the missing key because I was doing like radical self-care coaching and through this, I realized that that was the missing key. When we help our clients and they're not getting the point across, and you're like, what is missing? Like, what am I not doing that isn't helping? And everything just kind of fit together like a puzzle piece. And I decided to rebrand myself because I noticed that that was what was really needed. Because no amount of mindset work is going to override your body.
Oh,
Unfortunately.
no, totally. And it's such an awareness too, right? Like you started noticing for her the like the trends, if you will, what was happening.
Mhm.
And so how did that shift for her? How did that awareness help her?
Yeah, so it definitely like it completely shifted the relationship that she had with her business where she would like book these meetings during her luteal and her menstrual phase and then wonder why it was going awry, why it wasn't working. And I'm like, like during this phase is not the time to do that. She called me one time and she was like, I booked an appointment. And then I realized now through tracking that it was, and I rescheduled that because I'm not doing that anymore. And I'm like, that's right. That's so right, And it just like totally changed the outcome of our life so much that it inspired me to bring this work to other women.
Ah, oh, so cool. Wow. And I think too, like if we could teach our kids and younger women earlier how to track and be aware, then it becomes not such a like confusing taboo conversation. Why do I feel like this at this point? And then I drop down here and then I'm up here and
Yeah.
so interesting. So now you're talking about, because I know that this is something going through people's head because I've had this thought of like, okay, I'm busy. I book 6 to 8 weeks out all the time. How do I know like when is going to be a good time to take the 12-hour days or to take the new clients, or like how does an entrepreneur sort of navigate the unknowns, or the, be able to kind of figure out what the right time to sort of go all in and what the time to rest is?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And you know what? This isn't something that I'm going to lie and tell you, you could do it right now and that's it. This is something that's going to be a relationship building with yourself. You're going to start to gather the data. You're going to start noticing the patterns. You're going to start just tracking, being aware, right? And of course, like things shift, things change. There are things that could influence when your cycle changes, like stress, your lifestyle, travel, the food that you're eating, if you're exercising too much, all of these things are coming into play. But when you start to know yourself, and that's something that I I talk about a lot, understanding yourself, knowing yourself. Like I already know that when I stress out a lot, I get my period early, or I get my period late, or I get headaches, or I get moody, or I get irritable. Now as a mom and an entrepreneur, I can't always not I can't just take a week and lay down in bed for the week, right? So you plan accordingly. It doesn't mean that you're going to, burn it all to the ground and let it all go, but be having that awareness first is key, and also giving yourself an extra space somewhere else. So maybe it's in the way of nourishing foods, really being mindful. Let's say that you booked out 6 weeks, but you already have this day where you're working 12 hours. What can you do to show yourself love, to show yourself compassion, right? You could nourish your body, you could take breaks, maybe you could sleep in a little bit or go to bed a little bit earlier. You're going to be saying no to other things that are not as important during that time. It's not about going crazy or being perfect, because that's a myth. It's all about like that awareness and consciously just being there for yourself.
Ah, I love that you say that because in this world of I can order something today and it's here tomorrow and I can change the paint on my wall and that is good and the furniture, I think we're very quick to go like, oh, well, that's going to take that's going to take me months to figure that out. I'm not doing that. And
Yeah.
it's that instant gratification. And that is one of the things that in my own business and with my own clients, I've really tried to bring a little bit more awareness around like, this is a journey. This is your life. This isn't a quick fix. This isn't a, take the pill and the thing happens. This is you becoming more in tune with you and committing to the long term, the long game, and figuring out those little things that you can do in the chaos that is still nourishing, that still gives you the permission to rest or to do, maybe you do say yes to the thing because that feels really good and but saying no to the extra, going out with the girls or like you say, going to bed early instead of binge watching the shows. I love that concept of finding little things amidst the sometimes chaos that we can't avoid
Yeah,
that are nourishing for where we're at.
absolutely.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, what are some things that you do, like as maybe a practice in those times where you have no choice but to be doing the things, but you actually deeply require rest or a little extra love? Or what are some of your go to, excuse me, practices?
So when I am in my menstrual phase, there are some things that are non-negotiable for me, right? So some of those are like having extra sleep. I would literally take a nap during the day if I need to. And it doesn't necessarily mean because I have my kids like knock out, right? But just allowing myself for rest. So we incorporated together as the meditation quiet time, things like that. Like get creative. Like what might work for me might be totally different for you, but there are things that you could still do. I'm very big in onto tea. Like I love teas. So I make a little ritual of it, right? When I'm in my menstrual phase, I make sure I have this moon flow elixir tea that I just make sure I drink it, I nourish it, I speak intention. I just take that moment to regulate myself. Even if it's 5 minutes that I have, it makes a big difference, right? It makes a big difference. I also don't go hard at the gym. I train jujitsu and I do it, but I don't do it when I'm on my period, like on my head. Like I'm not going to do that, right? Because like it's not going to serve me. It's going to raise my cortisol. It's gonna wreak havoc on my body and on my hormones. So I'm very mindful of that. I'll go for a walk instead. I'll do some yoga, things like that. It doesn't have to be like crazy, like I said, but just understanding. And I think that's where like the education and the awareness is, because once you understand the why you shouldn't be going hard at the gym during this time, why you should definitely take those small moments. Your intuition is heightened during your menstrual phase, your late luteal. You are more sensitive. If you are more sensitive, don't put yourself in situations where you're going to be tempting your more sensitiveness, right? So little things like that, yeah, like makes a big, big difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it all comes back to that awareness piece, right? Learning
Absolutely.
about your cycles. I've heard you talk about, and it helped me make so much sense of the different phases of your cycle and what might be required in there. I've heard you talk about the seasons. Can you just like kind of give an explanation of how you relate the seasons to the cycles? Because I think for our listeners too, like, well, I'll let you explain it, but it made sense to me of like, oh yeah, that time of year is what I need to do. Like that does resonate. It was a good visual for me, if you will.
Yeah. So I like to conceptualize stuff because that's just how my brain works. I like analogies and I like things like that because it helps me to understand, especially when you've gone so long without understanding and knowing. It could be very difficult, right? So I like to use the seasons because no matter where you live, even if you live in a very tropical place or a place that only has two seasons, we watch TV. We all know that there are four seasons, right? We know that there's winter, there's spring, there's summer, there's fall. These are the same inner seasons that we as women, cyclical beings, have. During our menstrual phase, that is our inner winter. Just like the leaves fall off of the trees, it's snowy, it's cold. What do? We're snuggled up in our house, hot cocoa, soups. I used to live up north in Pennsylvania, and wintertime was like we were having like soup festivals, right? Nourishing, nourishing foods, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. You're slower. Think about all the things that are going on during this season. And that is exactly what's going on inside of you. And that is exactly the same things that your body needs. Of course, winter, although it feels like it's forever, doesn't last forever. And before you know it, spring is going to be springing. So, the little buds start. Usually people up north, I lived up north, we planted our little seedlings. This is the time to plant seeds. This is the time when inside your estrogen, those hormones that make you feel really good, they start to rise, right? So you start to feel a little bit more hopeful, like, oh man, I'm back. Right? Like awakening from that dead of winter. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you start to feel like hopeful, optimistic. You have all of this creative ideas. You feel like you're being rebirthed, right? We know what spring is. That's literally what spring is all about, the rebirth. That's exactly what's going on inside. This is the time to start working out a little bit harder. Maybe I go back to the gym, I do the things. Um, my food intake is not going to be like the same heavy grounding foods as I was before. Now it's more light and fresh, springtime, right? And then, of course, as we keep going on, we enter our peak season, summertime. Summertime, everyone is barbecuing, we
Mhm.
are picnicking, we're on
Or
vacation, all the holidays,
happy.
happy, right? Like we're in bikinis, the sun's shining. Think of that. The same thing is happening inside of our bodies. We are the most magnetic. We are the most magnetic to others. We are the most magnetic to ourselves. I really recommend like mirror work during this time because that's when you are most influential, right? As a business person, as an entrepreneur, this is the time when you want to launch a new offer. You want to do a big presentation, you want to pitch that person. Even in our personal life, this is the time to have these hard conversations, maybe with our partner. I started making a list of things I'm going to talk to my husband about in the summertime, right? Because we are more prone to be understanding. We're not snippy, we're not like, we're estrogen rising. Estrogen is like our bonding hormone. We want communication. This is a time of more external. You give, giving your presence, giving your magnetism, attracting all of that. Same thing inside as outside. Of course, summertime don't last forever. So let's stop living like it's summer all year round, okay? We enter into our fall season, our inner autumn. This is the luteal phase. I personally like to categorize the luteal phase because it is the longest phase of our cycle. It's usually like around 2 weeks. The first week, we're still coming down from the high of summer. In the fall, at the beginning of fall, September, it's still warm, like it's still like, okay, we're still hanging out. It's not as hot, but it's more comfortable. This is when internally we get into our nesting mode where we're trying to prep, right? We're preparing. That's what the animals are doing outside too. In the fall, you see the squirrels, they're gathering their nuts. The bears are whatever they're doing before they hibernate, right? We're getting ready for the winter. So that's exactly how it is in our body as well. And then the second half of the luteal phase, you start to get a little bit more introspective, heading into that winter season, right? The things that didn't bother you in the summertime, now you're irritated. Why is he breathing like this? You know,
Yeah,
like
totally.
it's because we're more sensitive and we're more like no bullshit, right? Like we're more like less tolerant, right? This is the time to be like setting your boundaries, which we should be setting our boundaries from the get-go, but just to be like, just for the sake of this, like this is when we're tightening up our boundaries, because when we don't tighten up our boundaries during this time, we pay for it during our menstrual phase and the later parts of the luteal phase, because then this is when we start getting overwhelmed, overworked, overstressed.
Mhm.
So I really love seeing the menstrual phases as these seasons. And for women who are new to this is a really easy concept to grasp, right? Because even if you don't know what you need, just like what is everything, what's happening in the summertime? Boom, barbecuing, hanging out, being with people. Luteal phase is more inwards. Summer is external, doing all that stuff. Luteal phase, autumn is more like introspecting, receiving, like giving yourself that space and that time to really just go inwards. And it's okay. It doesn't mean that you're bitchy or something. You know how we get like these
Oh,
negative
yeah.
connotations. It's just that this is what's happening right now.
I love that so much. Because, like I said, it really resonated for me because I'm very visual. So, and like you say, having those analogies, like I can visually see like what I need that time of the year. So, relating it to my own body and cycles, that just was like,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. This is such a great conversation. I feel like we could talk about this all day long.
Yeah.
So, tell me, how do people connect with you? Like, I will have you've got your Instagram, but somebody who's listening and is like, oh, this makes so much sense and I need to learn more. Like, I need Gigi's help. How does a person work with Gigi?
Perfect. So I have my Instagram, which my content there is like a diary of all the things that I go through and also like relate, because a lot of us, like I feel like, Instagram is also a place for us to get little hits of educational. So I do educate on there, and I also have a group on Facebook. It's called The Bloody Truth. Period talk and support.
Yeah.
We go into all things, it's a free community, a free support group where women were just talking about these things openly. There's no need to feel ashamed. I had someone come into the group, and usually when you come into the group, I ask, what is your biggest period struggle? What are you hoping to get? And someone was like, my biggest struggle is that I need to hide it, that I have a period. And that totally broke my heart, right? Because if not, it's not just her, it's so many of us. So I'm creating this safe space where we could talk openly about these conversations. I also have my fundamentals program, Intuitive Flow, which is where I lead women and guide them through the coming back home, understanding, learning how to track. What are you tracking? Are you just tracking a period? No, we're tracking all the things, your energy, your mood, your physical symptoms. And then I teach them how to decode all of these patterns and all of this data, so that if something comes up, you're not outsourcing your power to Google, like, oh, let me Google what's you already kind of know what's going on with your body. And then I give you the tools to help yourself, support yourself through it, as well as nervous system regulation work, right? Breath work, mindset, Kundalini yoga, right? Like all of these other things that are also important for our spirituality and also for us to regulate, because a dysregulated nervous system is going to throw off your gut health, and then it's going to throw off your hormone, and it's a whole cycle. So those are the ways that, women who are interested could connect with me. I have so many different resources inside of the group as well. And I'm just building a beautiful community that, it's a movement. It's a
It
movement.
is a movement, and it is like a wildfire movement, and I love it. I love
Yes.
that. So somebody could come to your Instagram and all of the information is there. The links of how to get in touch with you, it's all there.
Absolutely.
Gigi,
Absolutely.
thank you for this conversation today.
Thank you so
I
much.
love this so much. I love what you're creating. And for our listeners, make sure that you go over, give Gigi a follow, reach out, tell her something you loved about this episode, connect. These are the conversations we have got to start having, and we've got to take the shame out of it and the like scaredness and the I can't talk about this because this is like, we got to get rid of all of that. And you're creating that movement. And I love that so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. All right, my love. That has been another episode of the Savvy Stylist Unleashed. Make sure you take a screenshot, share it to your socials, tag Gigi, tag me. Let us know what you love because, oh my God, this has been so jam packed with information. If you are not starting today to track all of the things, if you have not been doing that, then you need to re-listen and like really pay attention. And I say that with love always. I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. Until the next episode, mwah, have a great day.